your decisions on your life experiences, right? And I just was sharing that depending upon the things that you have lived through when they had that incident yesterday, how you were affected by the administration and its policies and all of those different things, that different people would feel differently about it, right? And I know a lot of people just looked at it, that he left a wife and kids, right? But that doesn't matter to a lot of other people because of all the hatred he spewed, right? And that the political violence part is the part I really want to address. But if you have been, when people say that it's just words or it's just opinions or a political view, that if you have been affected by these policies, it's not just words to you, right? It's not a debate. If someone has influence and power that believes the things that they are saying and policies are implemented because of your recommendations, right? And people are being affected by those policies, then it's not words and it's not just an opinion. And I think that people miss that part. And I explained that why everybody doesn't see it the same. And it's okay for people to see it the way that they see it. I'm just offering another way for you to see it. And it's this, that my brother, all of my brothers, I have 4 brothers. All 4 of them are pedophiles, right? One of them was far more sadistic than the other one, and he did horrible things to me growing up. And then he molested my daughter, and I sent him to jail for that, right? And when he got out of jail, that he was killed. That somebody came up to his car when he was parked outside of a bar, just a few blocks from my mama's house, and they unloaded a whole clip, and then replaced the clip and unloaded that. Right? They shot him 34 times. Right? And that why other people look at it as he had kids, he had 2 daughters and a son, right? He had a mama that lost her son. He had kids that lost their dad. He had brothers and sisters that lost their brother, right? But my point was that when people say, no matter what he did, no matter what he said, he had a family, and you just feel bad for his family. And I want you to just look at it from my perspective, that yes, my whole family was hurting when this happened to him because they lost their brother and their son, right, and their dad, and they were hurt behind that. But me, for all the things he did to me and then to molest my child, I didn't give a damn that he was leaving a family behind, right? Because the way that his life affected mine, right? So depending on the experience that you have lived through, that when somebody says that there should just be no political violence and just period, and you got to feel bad because he was a father of kids and this and this and that, right? But when you are somebody is separating you from your children and they don't give a damn about you or your kids, and then you got a deaf ear to that what people are saying, it doesn't affect you. Now, people that don't have those same experiences, those are the people that can say, well, I just feel bad because he's leaving his kids behind. He's leaving a wife and kids behind, right? I don't know what his wife views are, but I would imagine that I wouldn't be with somebody that felt that way as strongly as he does, and for a long as a period of time as he's been spewing all of this hatred and promoting this hate, right? That I can't see them. He did this long before they were married, and so I have to believe that she feels the same way that he does, right? But that while you are saying that he's leaving behind a family, and that we should at least feel sorry for that, that I'm just offering you another perspective, that instead of arguing and fighting and fussing and going back and forth over all of this, that have some empathy, right? That it's okay if you see it that way, but for people affected, it's impossible for them to see it that way. My whole family felt that way, but I didn't give a damn, right? Because of the way the things he did affected me. And the same way that people want you to mourn and feel sorry because it's still a loss of life, that think about me and think about the people who have been affected, directly harmed by the policies he helped create, right? I just want you to be open. Just open your mind and open your heart. Have some empathy for folks in that way. I'm just asking you to just consider their feelings, and don't be so negative for people who don't feel the way you do. Because I could be like, so how can you say you love me, and the things that this man has done has had a harsh effect on me, but you can still feel bad for him after the pain he's causing me? I could look at it that I could look at you that way. I could wonder, how could you feel like that? Don't you know the things that he said about black women? And I'm a black woman. The things that he said about black men, and I have 2 black sons, right? All the things, these things that came out of his mouth, those weren't just words. That stuff was harmful. That wasn't, look, policy differences when you're talking about taxes. Do you want to have trickle down, or do you want the top 1% to pay more in taxes? That's policy. But when you are attacking one race or a gender, that's not policy. That's hate, right? That is hate. We're not talking about taxes, right? So I could be to where I could take a hard stance and not understand how could you have any sympathy for this man or his family after the things that he said about me, right? I could look at it that way, but I don't, right? I'm not mad at you because you feel sorry that he left a family behind and you don't think this should have happened. I'm not mad at you for feeling like that, but I don't want you to be mad at the other people who feel a different way than you because of their experiences, right? That, y'all. And this. The other thing that came to my mind yesterday is when an unarmed black man is killed by a white police officer and we see the video, they always tell us, don't jump to conclusions. When we saw with our own eyes a man with no gun, a cop hollering at him, and then shooting him, knowing he doesn't have a gun, especially if he got his hands up and you shooting him. Our cops are beating and tasing a man, beating him damn near to death. You see this with your eyes. You see him kicking them and choking them and all of this. And they're saying, stop resisting. But he's not even resisting, right? You see this. But we are told not to jump to conclusions. But we saw the beginning of the traffic stop. He wasn't running from the police. This wasn't the conclusion of a high-speed chase, right? You pulled him over because he didn't have a light over his license plate, or we heard something. We got a report that there was something going on in the area, and can we have your license and your ID? Some BS like that, and then just what's supposed to be a routine stop turns into an unarmed man being killed, right? That. You say don't jump to conclusions, right? When they are school shootings, you want us to wait until we get all the facts because we don't know what happened, right? And the thing, and this is the thing about that. When you have school shootings, it's usually a white kid doing the shooting, usually. Now, nothing is 100% of the time, because you also have black officers that kill unarmed black men and women, right? That, right? We can just get it from any officer, any color, any race. We can get it from them, right? But you want us to wait to get the facts. All the time, wait for the facts and don't jump to conclusions. But the same way that I feel about my brother, and I feel by other people who have been harmed by folks' actions, not just words or opinions, by their actions. Because when you have that kind of power and influence to affect policy that is implemented and people are harmed by that, that's not just words and opinions, right? But it reminded me of the not jumping to conclusions, right? Because why did people automatically assume that it was political violence, right? It's like when my brother got killed, my mother came to me and my mother questioned me about my brother's murder, right? And my point was, the only reason my mom came to me and questioned me about my brother's murder is because she knew I had a reason to want him dead. That's why you came to me, right? Now, had he never raped me all these years, had he never molested my daughter, she wouldn't have had no reason to question me. But because he had done these things, that she questioned me about it because she knew I had a reason, right? That people thought immediately it was political violence. And what that says to me is the same way my mother questioned me because she knew I had a beef with my brother and the things he had done, that why would you think it was political violence? It's because of the divisiveness, right? It's that. If he was somebody out there just talking about taxes, right? That triple down on the trickle down. If he was out just talking about those kind of things, you're not thinking political violence just like that. But it's the divisive nature of everything that he's ever done. Anything you've ever heard out of his mouth was divisive. And it always had to do with black people, immigrants, and women. Right? And because of that, you assumed that it was political violence and you didn't know any of the facts. They don't know. I don't know. I haven't watched any news since I started streaming. But at the time of my stream, they didn't have anyone in custody. They don't know why he was killed. But you assumed it was political violence without even having any facts. Right? It's that part. It's the same thing to me. You're jumping to these conclusions because of his rhetoric, right? It's the same thing. I just want people to see it from another perspective. Just ask yourself why you thought that. Why did you think it was political violence? Why? And if it's because of the political climate in the country, ask yourself why. Why is that? Right? That. That. It's okay to feel how you feel because everything that you have gone through, all of that makes you feel the way you feel, and it also makes you interpret situations the way that you interpret them when other people see it totally different because we've had different experiences, right? That I just want people to have an open heart and an open mind. Even if you don't open your heart, if you just open your mind, we don't have to have hate toward each other because of this man, right? We've been getting along for 2 years. Right? We've been getting along for 2 years now because this man gets killed. Now we got to fall out. Right? That. And that's why I had the rule about not talking about politics in my Discord anyway. Somebody broke that rule and then this happens. Right? That. I don't like being put in a position where I have to pick a side. I don't like that. But if somebody says something like that in your Discord and you are the leader of a community, people are waiting to see how you gonna respond, right? Everybody wanted to see what Gma was gonna say. I shouldn't have never been put in that position. Everybody saw what happened. Right? You can have those conversations at home. We don't talk about that kind of stuff here, right? But I was put in that position and I was pissed about it. The thing was, I could have deleted the message. The reason that I didn't is because Carl, the only voice that you hear outside of my daughter on our stream, and everybody knows how I feel about Carl. Carl has gifted 2,867 subs to my stream. He is my top supporter, gifted subs, clearing my wish list, buying me clothes and lipsticks, giving me cash for anything that I need. He takes care of me totally, right? That. And because he was the one that said it, that people were waiting for me to respond. And this, nobody else would say it because they know my policy, right? And so for him to even say something like that it was like I let him say this when I wouldn't let anybody. I banned people for bringing up politics in my stream and in my Discord. I had permanently banned them for that, right? And at the time, I had a banner the same way you see at the top. There was a banner that said, "Do not discuss politics in my stream." It was a black banner with big bright red letters, so you couldn't miss it. Right? It wasn't at the top. It was down. It was like a quarter of the way down. So you couldn't watch me puzzle without seeing that. And that's why they were banned. Now, I'm not kicking nobody out of my community because we view things differently, right? But because they know that he takes care of me financially like that, it's like, is Gma still gonna have the same stand when it's this man that takes care of her, and we know she loves Carl. We know how she talks about Carl, 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 right? That was I gonna let it slide, right? I was gonna leave it there and don't say nothing. Was I gonna say something about you're not supposed to talk about that? Was I gonna delete it or just leave it there? What was Gma gonna do? And I was put in a position where